For most of my childhood and even into young adulthood, people were constantly trying to cast me as Charlie Brown, sometimes literally casting me. What did they see? Was I some lovable loser? Was I that desperate looking? Was I so melancholy? What was it that they saw? And why couldn't they see the Snoopy within me? I mean, that's how I saw myself. Joe Cool. Off on a million and one fantasy adventures, one after another. Why didn't they see that? Well, the truth be known, as I grew older, I began to understand that I was neither Charlie Brown nor Snoopy. In fact, if you had to cast me as one of the Peanuts characters, it's pretty clear. I'd be Linus. Linus, the one who always told stories. I mean, would we even know about the Great Pumpkin if it wasn't for Linus? And I'll never forget the first time I saw the Peanuts, the Charlie Brown Christmas show. That show focused on trying to find the true meaning of Christmas in the midst of all the commercialism. And in walks Linus on stage and delivers the Christmas story. There was something that hit deep inside, like I know that person. That's who I am. I'm called to tell stories. And others evidently saw it. My ninth grade English teacher dubbed me the bucolic bard. Took me decades to figure out what he meant. And then one day I realized I'd become it. I was that country storyteller. I guess that's who I am. And that's okay, because stories are important. That's how we get to know who we are. The stories we tell about ourselves, the stories we make up, the stories we listen to from others. It's how we find our place in family, in school, in the community, in the world, in church. We do it with stories. Stories socialize us. They entertain us. They educate us. They challenge us. They lead us beyond ourselves into a world of imagination. In short, they shape who we are. And this night is a night of stories. This whole season is a season of stories. I mean, how many of you don't have a particular movie you have to watch sometime during the Christmas season for it to be Christmas? For me, it's The Muppet Christmas Carol. I haven't watched it yet, and I can feel restless, a little uneasy. Or how many of us get that Christmas spirit the minute we see the Eaton Park Christmas tree bend over? Or are there stories or books that you have to revisit for it to be Christmas? For me, it's a very thin volume. It's mostly beautiful paintings done in the 50s for the Ideal magazines. It's Santa and his elves in preparation for Christmas. And I would pour through that every year getting ready for Santa. And I still do. I bought copies for all the kids, and I still buy more copies, hoping I have enough for all the granddaughters. And what are the stories that we always tell at this season? that we revisit year after year after year? What are the memories, the stories of Christmas past, of days gone by, but stuck so vividly in our memories? What are those stories we tell? And what are the stories we tell about the folks that are no longer around our table when we gather as family and friends? They are with us because of their stories, and we tell them to keep close. It's a season of stories, and we come with all those stories tonight, our stories. And here we lift them up to God, that they may be made whole and holy, the painful and the joyful are wrapped with God's story in an intricate web, a new story. And so as we move through our liturgy tonight, and as you move through the holiday season, pay attention to those stories that are important to you, those stories that you bring to this season. And listen for God's story in the midst of them. How is God continuing to write a story of you? We come this night with a particular story in mind. It is a story we've heard time and time again. We've heard it from Linus. We've heard it from others. We've watched it in so many movies and television shows. It's so much a part of the season that we almost overlook it. Oh yeah, I know that story. And we start worrying about presents yet wrapped and preparations for meals and trips to family. But even more distracting to that story is the fact that we've domesticated it. We've boxed it up so that it's nice and neat and manageable. We've even visually boxed it up in creches. You know, those idyllic scenes of Mary and Joseph and the babe, shepherds and wise men and camels and donkeys and cattle and sheep. That's the story. Very pastoral, very serene. But is that the story? One of the problems is that we have painted the shepherds. Well, we've probably sung the shepherds into a new existence. Lowly, tending their sheep. Somewhere near the bottom of the socioeconomic group, those poor shepherds. But if you were a first century Palestinian, whether you were of Greek origin or Roman or Jew, the image of the shepherd would be a far different image. For in those cultures, to use the image of the shepherd was to call forth the image of the king. The movers, the shakers, the powerful, the mighty. It is to those folks that the angel comes with quote unquote good news. And yet for that group of people, what the angel brings is anything but good news. They've heard Mary's song that we sang so recently about a total transformation of the world, where the mighty will be brought low. They'll be cast out from their thrones. That's not good news if you got a throne or if you are mighty and powerful. It's no wonder they fall on their faces in awe and fear. They know what this child means. It is the end of the world as they know it. It's not good news. But for us, the lowly, for us, the broken, the battered, for us who have days where we just try to get through it and hope we can make it, where we carry the burdens of our grief on an hourly basis, fighting back tears again and again. We who have heard the word cancer far too many times. We who have watched relationship after relationship go bad. Spouses, children, lovers, friends. We who just want to give up sometimes and pray that God would take us. We who are simply worn out and tired. It is to we that those angels come to bring good news. A reversal of our fortunes. To be lifted up and given new life. Wholeness. Shalom. And God does it by wrapping our stories, painful as they may be, in God's story. A story of a child, and yet more than that. A story of a king who will transform not only our lives, but the entire world, and unfold it into God's story. We come tonight to celebrate what is called the Incarnation, God made flesh. And we do it disservice if we think that it was a one-time event. But God continues to come to us in flesh and blood again and again. Not only in that meal that we gather as church to celebrate, but in those dozens of folks that bump in and out of our lives, some known, so many unknown, family, friends, colleagues, strangers. They bring us what we need when we need it. And it's only later often that we recognize the presence of God in their midst. But God brings that story that we might have life, that we might have it abundantly. Yes, God's story this night is a story of hope and courage and newness. It's a dynamic story for us and for all the world. And even those who are mighty and powerful. You see, when the shepherds go visit the babe, their lives are transformed. No longer fear and trembling, but they go forth shouting the good news to anyone who will hear. And isn't that our call? We who live in the promise of this child in, with, and through us, are we not sent out into the world to encounter that child in the faces of others? To tell of that child and the story as it has unfolded our stories, and to be that child to others, that the Christ in them may see the Christ in us, and vice versa. And when that happens, it's time to sing a joyous song for all the world. Amen.